Hi, Primas. I'm Roxy.
And I'm Giselle.
And this is the For Las Primas podcast. Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone.
Today, we are so excited to welcome a very special guest, Hady Mendez, author of Calladita No More, My Latina Journey, and the Lessons That Shaped Me.
Hady's book is powerful, raw, and inspiring. It's about becoming your own role model in spaces where you don't often see yourself and discovering your true calling and passions in life.
We're diving into her story, the lessons she's learned, and the wisdom she's sharing with Latina women everywhere.
So grab your cafecito, get comfy, and let's jump right into this conversation.
Welcome, Hady Mendez, to our podcast. We are so excited to have you here with us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining. So for those of you who haven't picked up your copy yet, Hady wrote Calladita No More, My Latina Journey, and the Lessons That Shaped Me. So pick up your copy if you haven't yet, but we are going to get into it today. There might be a few spoiler alerts, so just putting that out there. This book was amazing. Hady, thank you so much for writing it. I think that was a voice that, as a corporate girly, I really needed to hear a lot of the things that you had to say. We're just so honored to have you. Before we get into the book, we want to take it back. So we love starting our interviews by understanding, we know that you're a proud New Yorican. Giselle and I are Jersey girls, so we're very familiar.
I know Jersey really well.
Yes, we're the Cuban people who went to Jersey at first, back in the 90s, late 80s. I'd love to learn more kind of about your family's move to New York from Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is a part of the U.S., but are you first gen New Yorican? Were your parents?
Yes, I am. My mother and father were born in Puerto Rico. My mother's from Aguadilla. My father's from Moca. Aguadilla is more like a town. There's an airport there and there's a beach. So it's a legit place. Moca's a little bit more like campo. I don't know a lot of tourists that go to Moca. That's not really a destination. It's more like if you got family there, you go. You got to wear long sleeve shirts. Otherwise the bugs bite you up type of place. I remember when we're going to Moca. Everybody was like, okay, get all the bug spray and the pantalones largo and cover every inch of your skin. Anyway, so no shade on Moca. That is, I'm mocosa, like my dad and whatever. We're good. There's 4 girls in the family, 4 daughters. My 2 oldest sisters were born in the early 60s in Puerto Rico. And then my family, my mom and dad moved here with the 2 daughters to Brooklyn. And then my other sister, who's closest in age to me, and I were born here in Brooklyn. Pretty much all my aunts and uncles came here, and they all came here to work. It was just, and it wasn't fancy work because they didn't have degrees. It was trabajar en una factoría. Eso es lo que había, So we all were, that's what they were doing. They were working in factories. However, my dad opened a shoe store in Brooklyn. So he had worked in a shoe store in Puerto Rico. And it's really funny. To this day, I still have a recommendation letter that he got from the shoe store where he worked in Puerto Rico. And it was typewritten in this paper that is I don't even know what that paper is made out of at this point, but it lasted all this time. And it says in Spanish, to whom it may concern, Domingo was a good shoe salesman and, he knows how to sell shoes, the end. And then maybe his signature and a phone number or something. So it was very old school recommendation for my dad. I think he just had the idea that he would open his own shoe store. And so he did. And he opened it in the neighborhood where we live. My neighborhood was very Puerto Rican. I lived in the proyectos that are called Borinquen Plaza. If that gives you any indication, the street we live where his shoe store was at is called La Avenida de Puerto Rico. We had record stores that, one was called San Germán, like the name of the town. We had the Red Market, which was La Marqueta. And there they sold gandules, vianda, pasteles, alcapurrias, everything. It's we were not in Puerto Rico, but we were kind of still in Puerto Rico. And so I grew up speaking Spanish around a very Puerto Rican community. I remember one distinct thing, and I didn't write all these details in the book. I wish I kind of did, in retrospect. I remember there was the Chinese restaurants in my neighborhood all sold tostones, arroz con habichuela, chuleta. For us, having Chinese was just having Spanish food from the Chinese store because it did taste a little different. Actually, it was quite good. I don't know if y'all have ever had
I've heard
Chinese.
really good things about
Yeah,
them.
it's really good. The totones were banging, and they made good rice. And I'm like, I don't know who was in the kitchen, but the food was like mad legit. And so, like, do you want to have Chinese? Was translation. We're gonna get Spanish food from the Chinese restaurant.
That is
It's
amazing.
funny.
I loved that part of the book of your working at your dad's shoe store. Your sisters worked there. You worked there since you were 10 years old. Just kind of
Yes.
like it was a family affair, right? Like, what are
Yeah.
they gonna do with you? Like, we gotta work, so you gotta come with us and we'll pay you to do the work. So
Yeah.
you also talked about your dad would heavily discount shoes sometimes for people in the community. And then
Yeah.
later we find out that you did a lot of service in your life too and mission trips. So do you think like that was the entryway for you into like mission work, seeing your dad serve his community?
That's an interesting tie-in. I will say, yeah, for those people who haven't read the book, there's a really fun story about like me working in my dad's shoe store. And the fun part, and everybody who knows my father and knows the shoe store, when I wrote Mingo no me cobra tax, that was like legit. Everybody was like, no, no, Mingo no me cobra tax. I'm like, I got you. I already knew like what was coming, and I hated it because it was like I hated that like it was always a round number, and I wanted an uneven number so I could pick up change from the register. Like that was like my whole goal in life was to give change, and then he always rounded it up. He's like, dáselo en 15. And I'm like, 15? But that means I have to hand them a $5 bill. I wanted to do the change. It was awful. Like that was what I lived for at 10. But I I do think that it impacted more how I show up as an entrepreneur, because I feel like, as an entrepreneur, I almost never say no to anyone. So like people are like, I don't really have a budget, or I don't have a lot of money, or can you do this? Like we only have like an honorarium that's like $200. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like killing me. But yes, I'll do it. Cause I know that like I know a couple things. One is, we are here to serve the community. So I would say that, that's an important part of my mission anyway, is to pay it forward type of thing and make sure that other people get the benefit of the things that I've learned. But also I feel like I think about it, and I think about that people, if people are coming to ask, is because they need. And that's like doesn't feel good to turn people away that have a need. And that, I think, if I could tie that all the way back to the things I saw in my father's shoe store, where people would be like, no me cobra tax was annoying, but like people, eso eran los chavos que tenían that they were trying to put together to buy, maybe if they saved a little bit of money, they could buy two pairs of shoes instead of one. So it's like, there was a reason people kept coming back there. And so yes, he was doing it for repeat business, but he also knew that he was helping them kind of stretch their money. And I feel like, I that's a lesson that I learned from watching that, and not like in the moment. Like in the moment, I didn't know anything. Just like I was 10. But I'm saying, like, looking back on it, I'm like, wow, like
Yeah.
that was impactful. And
Mhm.
that wasn't even like his goal, I don't think. I think he just wanted to, like, you know, pay his rent, put food
Yeah,
on the
yeah. Have
table.
his little business and
Yeah. Like, I
yeah,
don't think he was trying to be a millionaire, but he was just trying to like provide for his family. And in doing that, he also found ways to, be of service to other people, and people that really needed. And I gente de necesidad. It wasn't just like, people coming there just for fun to be like, oh, give me the shoe without tax or like whatever. I think it was people who really had a
yeah,
need. And yeah, anyway, so I think it impacts me more in that way. I
yeah,
did I don't know where that idea of service came from that led me all the way to go to Cochabamba, Bolivia, to work with incarcerated people. I'm not sure where that comes from, but I think because I went through a whole program, I think a lot of it was just appreciation for having humble beginnings and being able to superarlo and be like, we were all brokety broke. And then like we had a plan to finish high school and then to go to college and, have a profession. And somehow I made like, a lot of money in the meantime. I was able to make a lot of money. I was able to, help recruit younger people. I was able to be like the Latina that helped to talk about what the Latina experience was like at some of the places where I worked. And I feel like, yeah, it was a responsibility. Like I noticed that it's like, this is a responsibility I have for my community or to my community. And so I
Yeah,
think that's some of where that mindset of service comes from.
that's
So
beautiful.
that's a great segue into our next question. What does it mean for you to be Puerto Rican, and how do you carry your Puerto Rican culture with you?
Well, all I have to say is Bad Bunny. I'm just like, Bad Bunny, Bad Bunny, Bad Bunny. It's like, now is like the best time to be Puerto Rican because he has put us on the map. He has made us loud and proud. He is just someone with a lot of integrity, and he is also very intentional. Like
Mhm.
that's the
Oh, we know. We pick up every clue. We're
Everything.
like, what
yeah,
does that mean? What does that
yeah,
mean?
yeah. He's been around for a minute, but
Yeah.
for a
Mhm.
while he didn't have the world as his audience. He
Mhm.
just, he had his people, and but little by little he was showing who he was. And I'll tell you, I only became a fan in January of Bad Bunny, but I know that like my friend who's been a fan for a lot longer, she put me on. She's like, "Did you ever watch the video Yo Perreo Sola?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Go watch it. Go watch it and come back." I was afraid to watch. And it was so good. And I'm like, he's been showing up as himself for some time. Not
Yeah.
everybody was listening, not everybody was paying attention. But there's a lot that, I'm very proud of him, and he makes me very orgullosa to be Puerto Rican, to be part of the diaspora, and I feel very included. Like, that's another thing that he's done, is that he's kind of widened and broadened the tent. So even people that are not born in Puerto Rico like me, who usually people call me gringa when I go over there, or americana, and that like feels like shit. He has, I guess, cemented our place. And it's like, well, our parents and grandparents were born in Puerto Rico. We're Puerto Rican too. This is our
Totally.
isla as well.
Yes.
And we also, regardless of I happen to speak Spanish and have a very Puerto Rican influence because I listened to my mother play her 8-track tapes of all these people when I was growing up, and I watched Sábado Gigante and Huerta Mercado and Milta de Perales, and I know everything that's it means to be Latina, and in like what that means to be a Latina in the United States. But I will say too that aside from all of that, I think he has taught me a lot about how to show up fully and how to stand on values and principles. And so anyway, so he represents a lot of what it means to be Puerto Rican in this moment in the year 2025. Obviously before that there were other people. I
Yeah.
was a J-Lo fan back in the day, and, Mark Anthony and Gilberto Santa Rosa, Gran Combo. I've seen almost all these people in concert. Big fan of the culture. Um,
He's like a
and
new generation. He's a new thing. It's a
he
new
is a
way
new
of
thing.
thinking about it, right?
Yes, and he has been very bold in his, like my company's called Boldly Speaking. I'm talking about being bold and brave, and he's bold and brave in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot more than other people I've seen even in my lifetime. Like he stands out to me. And so
Yeah.
that's what made me such a big fan of his. But being Puerto Rican is really about, being proud of who you are. To me, it's orgullo, knowing that we're small but mighty, because we're a small island. Um and I think, sometimes people poo-poo the Caribbean, and, like
No
I
saben
think
hablar, no
our
saben hablar.
Spanish is criticized a
Yeah.
lot. Like, it's like, and even like I used to work in Miami. We were talking about Miami off camera, but I used to work in Miami, and everyone was so curious about where I was from. And the
Mhm.
minute I said I was Puerto Rican, I could see like they were like, oh. And it was like, oh, what? Oh, you shit, I'm Puerto Rican. What the fuck? Why are you not happy about it? I'm very excited about that, but I could tell that they were not. So
Yeah.
I had to adjust that, a little bit. And I remember I used to take Spanish classes, and I was like, can you just neutralize my accent, my Spanish accent? Because I was like,
Oh,
I
no.
didn't want people to know where I was from when I started talking, because but I think it's so obvious. But like, even when I was when I lived in Bolivia, and I lived there for 2 years, everybody that I talked to there thought I was Brazilian, because
Mm.
Brazilian people, because their first language is Portuguese, talk Spanish a little funny. And to them, that's how my Spanish sounded to the people in Bolivia. So they're like, ah, eres brasilera. I'm like, no, I'm not. Yo soy puertorriqueña. They're like, mira, mi amiga de Costa Rica. I'm like, No soy de Costa Rica, soy de Puerto Rico. Like, they didn't even know where it was. They didn't know anything about it. They just knew that I was different.
Oh my God.
And they actually, at one point, they actually said, "Eres casi Latina." That's what they told me. And thinking that that was a compliment, and that was such a big insult to me, because it was
Yeah,
like,
you're
no,
like,
no,
duh.
yo soy Latina. What? Check yourself. But listen, I've heard a lot of things, so nothing
my
surprises me anymore. But
God.
for me, I am proud of where I'm from. I know that even though like my parents weren't super educated, I still learned a lot from them. That's why I have refranes in the book, because I'm acknowledging so much that they shared, even that my parents and grandparents still shared with me, and has helped to shape me, and has helped to shape and form the person that I am today. Like, everything about it, being an entrepreneur, being someone that had 25 years, more than 25 years of experience in corporate. Like, two people that didn't even graduate from high school that made that person. And but they gave me a lot anyway, and I hope that I acknowledge that in the proper way, and honored them in the proper way in the book, because that was my goal.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that. And I think too, I love that you mentioned that about the Caribbean, because Giselle and I are Cuban American. I feel like we've had moments in our life where people have been like, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh,
Mhm.
Cuba." Like, you get that same kind of like, "Oh, the Caribbean." Like, "Oh, like you guys don't pronounce your S's, or you guys don't pronounce this." And it's like, who cares? Like, what do you care? And so that's something I've definitely experienced before. Another piece is we just love Puerto Rican culture so much. Like, going to Puerto Rico feels like going home for us too. We were just there for the Bad Bunny concert, and we were
Oh,
like,
nice.
like
Me
we
too.
so at home. It was so good. It was so good.
It was good.
But we just feel so at home in the Puerto Rican culture, and I think that's the Caribe, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're in the DR, if you're in Puerto Rico, if you're in Cuba,
Yeah.
like, we all feel like we're part of one, and then we can be made feel less than like Latin American countries. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought
Mhm.
that up.
Yeah, it really
Yes.
resonates, that part, especially when you're, like, saying when you were speaking Spanish and they thought that you were from Brazil. I work in healthcare, and when I speak to my patients sometimes, I don't know if you've seen that video of Cardi B being like, "Mi español es muy ratatata."
I've not seen it, but I'm not surprised.
That is my medical Spanish, is muy ratatata.
Listen, I worked in tech and financial services, and there was so many words I didn't know. Like, people be like, hipotecas, and I'm like, "Hmm?" And they're like, cuenta de corretaje, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Say that another way.
Yes, yes.
But I learned. A
Yeah.
través del tiempo, I learned. And actually, I ended up being like the LATAM person for my company. And I would go and I'd be like, "Hey, Panama, what's up? Let's go. Hey, Puerto Rico, I'm here." So I ended up being like the LATAM salesperson, and it ended up working out quite well for me. It was a good sitch for me. And
I
I
love
and I and I loved it. Yeah, it was a really good job.
corporate struggles. I want to spend some time on this because I think this is something that a lot of women of color experience at some point in their career. And your story just really resonated with me. I've been in corporate for 9.5 years, and you said this. I'm going to quote your book because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. I spent a long time hoping someone in my industry would mentor me, validate how I was showing up, and advocate for me when I wasn't in the room. But that moment never came. And I found that to be so heartbreaking, but also so real. It's so
Yeah.
real. I was reading a stat that Latina is the demographic that's least represented in the C suite right
Yeah.
now, compared to all the Latino people that do work in corporate. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, you talk about a lot of ways that you were able to go about like finding community, finding your purpose, really just trial and error, right? Like,
Mhm.
what advice do you have for women in corporate that feel that sentence that you said? I don't have anyone to advocate for me. I'm in this solo. My parents can't help me. I don't have a mentor or a tia or somebody or a connection because
Yeah.
we weren't born into wealthy families that already had careers.
Yeah. I think when I think back to those moments, the thing that I think like was one of the most hard things for me was that I would get good reviews. So the reviews were usually pretty good. And I would tell my manager or ask my manager, "Hey, so like, what do I need to do to get promoted?" He'd be like, just keep doing what you're doing. But the promotion never came. And, sometimes we're a little bit hidden because we are good. I would say most Latinas I know in corporate are like somebody's right hand, doing all the work, getting all the work done, but just not getting very much credit or recognition for it. And they're not invited into the rooms where the decisions are made, but they're getting the job done. And so if you find yourself in a similar situation, I think the thing that can make the biggest difference is like advocating for yourself. It's the difference between hoping you get promoted and having a very direct conversation about like, hey, my expectation is that I would be getting promoted in the next 6 to 12 months. Like, A, is that realistic? B, what's it going to take? C, can you help me? I remember I worked at a company. I was trying to get promoted like in that time frame. I was like, I would like to get promoted in the next year. And, my manager said they would help me, but just I didn't trust her. So, have your antennas up. Know who
Totally.
you can trust and who's blowing smoke up your butt. But I didn't trust her. So I ended up joining like a mentoring program that
Mm,
paired us with um sort of more senior people. It wasn't like a black and brown thing. It was just like the people who were the, I guess, getting the mentoring, we were black and brown, but the people that were going to mentor us were not exclusively black and brown. And I remember that I specifically said I would like a woman of color in my application. I want to get the help from someone who's walked already in my shoes and who's kind of been through it. And so I got paired with this like senior director, black woman, and she was like, let's start working on your application now. And she broke everything down for me, A, B, C, D, E. Like we were preparing for this shit for like 6 months, and I got promoted. But I credit her a lot for just, she was specific about it and she was giving me feedback, have conversations. You know what I mean? Like my manager was not telling me any of that. She was like, let's keep our fingers crossed. I was like, no, girl, we're going to do a little bit more than keep our fingers crossed. We're going to do the steps that is required. So I would say, advocate for yourself, hold people accountable, make sure you are being very specific about like what is required. Like it's not just like do well or keep doing what you're doing. That was like the worst advice ever. Come on now. Like that's not even a thing. What do you mean keep doing what I'm doing? Like
I'm
that,
busting my ass and I'm
yeah.
still not getting
Yeah,
where
that's not good career advice.
Mm.
And then I would say the other thing, so we need to advocate for ourselves and say the things we want out loud. And I have like, I say various things around that because that helps you to be like, yes, this is what I want. And now I'm going to ask someone to help me to get there. So now both of us are going to be accountable to try and achieve this thing. But that's not enough sometimes. The other
Yeah.
thing I highly recommend is to make sure you're also self-promoting, or you're talking about the things you're achieving and making sure that other people are aware of them, and not in like a braggadocious, annoying way, but in a way that is like, hey, just want to remind you, these are the things that I've done. Managers are like, they want you to do a self-assessment and then they work from that. Make sure you do a good self-assessment. Make sure you have all your receipts. Make sure you're listing all the things. You are in the best position to tell your story and advocate for yourself. So make sure you are using the power you have to do that. It's worth it because usually the outcomes can be quite good.
Yeah, I think being brave, you talked a lot about being brave in the book, and a lot of us first gen, I feel like, grew up with the mentality you have to be thankful you have a job. I get one done. This is part of the process. So I love that you're saying like, hey, no, actually like you have to advocate for yourself. And another thing that I found interesting, you're like, I overstayed my visit at this one company. And like I did not overstay your visit. So like what are like quick indicators that you've overstayed, that it's time to go, that like it's not worth continuing to try to overperform? You are performing. You are overperforming.
Yeah, usually there's a lot of indicators. One that I've seen a lot is getting like continuously getting reorged. I was in this one company where I was like, look over here, I'm doing this. Okay, now you work for this person. Okay, now we're gonna put you under this. It got to the
Mhm.
point where they like had me reporting to someone who was my peer. And he felt really bad. And he was like, I just want you to know that I recognize that you're my peer. I really respect you. Oftentimes getting reorged or even getting demoted. Like I had that other situation I described where it was like a merger acquisition situation. And then they were like, oh, we're going to review everybody's job. And then they were like, okay, you are going, and they, instead of putting me in the sales team, which I was on in the original company, they put me on the account management team. Guess who else was on the account management team? Everybody else on that team was black and brown, and all the salespeople were white. Surprise? Coincidence? I don't think so. Like, I think that was very much by design. And that's very common to see
Yes,
that. Like, anybody who's
that is
ever been in a
still
sales
common.
role, yeah, it's like usually it's like a white guy is your sales account rep. And then everybody doing the work and getting the shit done is not. And they were just like, well, it seems like this is where you'd be a good fit. And I was like, okay. And I was like,
I
where's my Rolodex? I gotta find a new job.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's so hard, and I feel like there's so much heartbreak that goes into the process too, because you love your career, you love your job. Like, I'm in tech too. We work so hard. We're thinking about our parents. We want to make our parents proud. We want to, we want to make ourselves proud. We want to make good money, and like in the process, yes, I have made good money, but my soul has been crushed by so many bad managers, or
Yeah.
I know all of them have been white. I have never had one manager, person of color, that has treated me the way I have been treated by white leadership.
Yeah.
And I think it's like so taboo to be able to talk about these things. And I'm glad that we can in an open forum, because there is disparity in the corporate world, especially for women and especially for women of color. Black women have it even worse than Latina women. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought these things up, because I have felt this heartbreak. I have felt like I have struggled. And at the end of the day, I've had to change my mind shift to like, what's wrong with me? This has happened to me now in more than one company. Is it me? Is it something that I'm doing? And flip the script and be like, hell no, it's them. They're not
Yeah.
seeing me. They're not, they're not appreciating my work.
I like what you're saying because even though life isn't perfect and it's a work in progress, I do recognize patterns and behaviors and things
Mhm.
now much more than I used to. So when someone is gaslighting me, I'm like, hold up. Like, wait a second. You said this thing and now I'm seeing you do this thing. I don't trust you because you're not, what you're saying and what you're doing seem to be two different things. It's not enough that you're wanting to do things for me. Like, things really need to happen. And if there's an obstacle or if you don't have the power or the influence to help me, then I'm not working with the right person. If you
Totally.
really can't help me, then let's find the person that has the power and the influence to change this situation. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work for us to advance in our careers. I think it's much more work than other people need to do. As far as I know, I talk to a lot of peers. They don't jump through so many hoops. They don't have to prove themselves 10 times over. They don't have to have receipts, like receipts for days. They don't have to be begging for things. It's like, for me, I feel like I'm always begging for something. And it's like, I'm not really sure. Like, everybody else just gets it. And I'm have to be here begging and providing so much backup and support to demonstrate that I deserve it. And it just
Yeah.
doesn't feel right.
This reminds me of a thing that you said in the book: be audacious as you walk through the world. Like, have the audacity of these people who have the audacity to tell you no. Live life like with that audacity,
Yeah.
and you'll see how quickly the script changes, right? We will eventually find our purpose. We will eventually find our thing. The corporate world is great. You make good money, right? You talked about this. You can make good money while you figure out what the purpose is, what the next thing is, what your business is, what your plan is, like
Yep.
whether it's taking a mission trip or whether it's starting your whole new organization. Like, taking that time is so important. And sometimes just putting up with some bullshit in the process, right?
Yeah. I'm a big fan. I don't know if either of you have read the book, The Memo by Minda Harts.
Mm.
It's a really good book. It was one of the first books I read where I felt seen as a woman of color in corporate. So it's a really good book. It's like the original Calladita No More. And one of the lines that she says in that second book that stuck with me is make work for you. Make work
Yes.
work for you. And it's like, there's a time and a place for everything. That's where you could really develop your skill set. That's maybe where they could pay for your training. That's where you could meet people. That's where you could build your leadership skills. Like, there's a time and a place for corporate. If you are someone that does not feel seen and heard and celebrated in corporate spaces, there still could be good rationale and reasoning for staying there just to get what you need out of it and then use that to catapult and build what you want and what kind of makes you feel good. But that whole like make work for you was like that hit me.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I'm at in my journey too. Just figuring out what the purpose is. Cause too, like, we're, as first gen, it's like you have to go to college, you have to have your career, you have to, make good money, like all of these expectations that were set on us, but our parents were in survival mode. They never had the space to ask us to find our purpose, right? Like that
Correct.
purpose, soul searching. I never had any. I don't know if you guys had those conversations at home, but we didn't have those
No,
conversations at
no,
home.
muchacha, a trabajar. Like you could you put your feelings aside and you work
Mm.
and you make your money, and that job security and that feeling, that financial security was very important.
How do your definition of success evolve over time, and what is success to you now?
Yes, I do really love this question because it is an individual thing. We all get to define success in the way that we see fit, in the way that makes our heart sing, that makes us happy, that fills our cup, that gives us purpose. You do. It is not good to have Sunday scaries and to like hate being at work. I'm glad that I get to choose to live a different life right now. And for me, I think success is a lot about like freedom, and choice. I think that's really what it comes down to. I'm getting to do the things I want to do. I get to decide what fills my cup. I get to decide what my community needs and how I want to show up for the community. I get to show up. I get to decide what's going to make the biggest impact and, do that thing. I get to chase after the things that matter to me because they truly matter to me, not because other people have told me that I should want them. And so having that choice and that freedom to choose all those things is really important. I'm definitely someone who's sort of in the second chapter of my life. So I'm like transitioning towards retirement age, and I'm very focused on legacy now. I really just want to do things that matter, that make a difference for people, that where people feel seen and celebrated. The book is a big part of that. I hope that there's going to be other ways that I get to do that. So for me, legacy, impact, um, and just really thinking about the next generation of leaders, that's really where my head is at and how I define success. Money, I just need money to pay bills. I need money to eat. I need money to, like have a
Go
roof over
watch
my
Bad
head
Bunny, Puerto Rico.
to go see. Well, I'm actually going to see Bad Bunny in Spain
Oh,
next.
nice.
So I need
Oh,
just enough money to do that. But I don't aspire to be rich and wealthy. And that there's a lot of freedom that comes with that because you could get trapped. I like how I'm living my life. So it makes me happy and it works for me. People are always observing what you're doing. So, being living a life of integrity, honesty, like rooted in values, with a real purpose, people see that. And I know so many people that live their lives that way or want to live their lives that way are, that's where they want to move towards if they're not there yet. And so I think that's a good example for people that are coming next, future leaders, that they're not um just like obligated to check boxes and be like, okay, first this, then that, then this other thing. And it's like, no, you could pick whatever you want to do, just be happy doing it. And I think have purpose. If you live a life of purpose, you have a better chance of being happy and
yeah,
fulfilled.
no doubt. I love that, and I think you're like I turned 35 this year. I don't know when the pivot happened for you, but this was a pivotal year for me where I was like, I'm still people pleasing. Why am I still people pleasing? I'm still living like inauthentically. I'm trying to like fit into like these spaces that do I want to fit into these spaces? I'm not for
Yes.
everyone, and that's okay. I don't want to be for anyone because then I'm phony, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm evolving to be this like chameleon that can survive in any environment. And that's the first gen effect too. I think we were just like raised to like you have to be in these white spaces, you have to show up, you have to do this. But this year I was like, I'm done. But is it too like I've been in my career for 10 years? Is it too late to start over? And then I was
Mm-mm.
like, that is the craziest idea too. Like I
No.
feel like this is this lie we're fed, como que ya a los 30 y pico ya se te acabó todo. But what's next? What's the next thing? And it's finding that purpose. And so I think your book really reminded me that like what am I talking about being too old? Like there's never too an age to reinvent yourself or find that purpose.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm glad that that's something you took away because I'm 55 and, I'm still growing a lot. This is a time in my life that I've grown and pushed the edges of what I'm comfortable with quite a bit. And I didn't expect that. Like by me. I'm like, I should just be settled down and just be like, going through the motions. Why am I still challenging myself this way? But in order to live the life you want, that's part of the process is you're going to be a little uncomfortable. You're going to make people feel a little uncomfortable. But then people are going to understand that you represent something, what it is that you represent. And that's the good part. Like, once you're like, I'm about this, or this is what I'm about, this is what I do, this is my, my mission or my vision or what I want for my life, my legacy. I think that there is going to be a time where I'm going to settle back in, but I'm definitely very on the edge right now. And I think the moment we're living in right now is
Yeah.
also causing that, because there's so much happening, and it almost feels like you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. So I think the moment is also calling for us to show up differently and to definitely be brave and push ourselves to our edges.
I love that you said freedom when you were defining your success, because I feel like as first gen too, our parents worked so hard to like build a foundation for us here that we took that mindset too. And we're like, okay, we need to like work really hard and like, just on the grind, on the grind, on the grind. But ultimately the goal is freedom to choose, like to be able to have that privilege to choose, okay, this is what I actually want to do with my life. And this is where I want to invest my time and do this. And I feel like I'm still working towards that freedom. But that
Yes.
is the ultimate goal.
It's real. I think the struggle is real to achieve that. It's
Mhm.
I don't even know if I'm fully there either. So, por si acaso, but I aspire.
Yeah.
I'm on the journey, and I think it's a constant give and take.
Mhm.
Because in order to have freedom, you have to give up other things.
Mhm.
So you just have to like prioritize what's most important. And I talk about that in the book too, because I just feel like I don't want anybody to feel entitled to anything, or anybody to feel like you got to work hard and like go through a difficult
Mhm.
moment to earn
Yeah.
a good life. Why? Why would that be the case? Why would we want that for anyone? If we
Mhm.
can help people live a better life sooner, let's do that.
Mhm.
Let's not make people, experience hardship just because we did. We have the benefit of seeing how much people struggled before us, and how we could maybe help prevent future generations from having to struggle as much as our parents did, or even as much as we did. And I feel like being in the middle, so to speak, we have a very like, it's an interesting perspective that we have to be like, wow, like that's what it was, but that's not what it has to be.
Mhm.
So I think it's our job to really, step forward, even if we're a little afraid and our voice is shaking and our feet are shaking, but still take that step forward and do whatever we can to make life better for everybody. And in particular for people that we know, like us, that have to endure a lot of injustice and, sometimes discrimination and racism, things like that.
So much injustice.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a great conversation.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I love the work that you're doing, so keep doing it.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank
this is important work. You're doing your part. Everybody has to do their part, but you're doing your part, and I appreciate it. And thank you for reading the book and
Yes.
liking it, enjoying it, and relating to it. Like, I hope other people read it and see themselves in it. I want everybody to see themselves not only represented but celebrated in the pages. And if you haven't picked up the book yet and you're thinking about like, what format should I pick up? Pick up the audiobook, because the audiobook, I narrated it myself
you.
and it's really fun.
That is how
So,
I
and
listened
I'm
to it. It
sassy.
was so good. Yeah.
Oh, you listen to the
Yeah,
audiobook?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I use curse words and everything.
Love it, Hady. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And pick up your book today if you haven't yet. So we'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you soon, Primas. Thank you. Till next time.
Bye.